Overnight, oil prices on the rise as the U.S. Navy prepares to impose a blockade in the critical Strait of Hormuz. It follows weekend peace talks that failed to reach a deal.
H7. Hit. B6. Miss. H8. Hit. C5.
Battleship, a great game of strategy, action, and suspense.
Miss. H6. You sank my battleship.
President Trump overnight put the ball in Iran's court.
I don't care if they come back or not. If they don't come back, I'm fine. And remember, their promise was that they were going to open the Hormuz Strait. They didn't do it. They lied.
The American Civil War was the most devastating war in American history. Over 625,000 men died during the war, decimating nearly 2% of the population at that time. The war's effects were felt all around the world, and nowhere more so than in Great Britain. British armories made guns for both the North and the South. British shipyards built warships and blockade runners for the Confederacy. And the Confederate trading embargo was causing economic problems in Britain's textile mills. At the outbreak of war, the United States Commanding General Winfield Scott proposed a very bold plan, which he named the Anaconda Plan.
Let's get a snake for our snake movie.
If you want to catch an anaconda, we'll need the perfect bait. Someone with speed and good hands.
The hell are you talking about?
No hesitation, no fear. You need someone who runs towards the threat.
I was wrong! Run away! He's right behind you! Ah! Run! I hate pigs!
In theaters, Christmas. Rated PG.
Hey, is Zone here yet?
For the millionth time, no. I will budge you the second he gets here. Jeez, I've never seen you so excited. You're like a little girl the morning her brother gets out of jail for beating up a cop. Or Christmas morning.
In theaters, Christmas. Rated PG-13.
General Scott's idea was to use the Union Navy to take control of the Mississippi River, cutting the main states of the Confederacy off from supplies in the west. Then the Union Navy would blockade the southern ports on the east coast and around the Gulf of Mexico.
You like this, don't you? Yes, you do. Yeah. All right. That's about all, kiddo. There you go. There you are. You just stay right there, Rags, all right?
By 1864, the Union's blockade of the southern ports was well established. Now in its third year, the Union Navy was working hard at its aim, starve the Confederacy of essential supplies and subduing the rebellion. On Monday, the 4th of July, 1864, the London Times ran an article named How to Run the Blockade.
I will bring back free speech in America. And finally, to restore pride in our history and confidence in our future, I will lead a massive year-long salute to America to celebrate the 250th anniversary. On July 4th, this was July 4th, 1776, okay? There are other dates you hear about, but this is the date that we recognize, 1776.
Poor Rags.
Dog.
He's alive. It's a miracle.
I'm the Messiah.
I'm serious. The chosen one. The king of kings. The Alpha and the Omega. You're looking at him.
We're going to have a big celebration, and it's going to be a celebration like we really deserve in this country for everything we've gone through. With you at my side, we will give our nation's founding the amazing anniversary party that America needs and so richly deserves.
This is like stepping back in time.
The past is prologue, Michael. Men like us have to keep looking to the future.
Wilmington, North Carolina, June 6th. It is difficult for an Englishman who desires to pierce the American blockade to decide which of the available routes offers the greatest facilities and attractions. My own experience during the present year would seem to prove that, as regards time, there is very little choice between land and water. Upon the 17th of last January, I started from Richmond, and making my way across the Potomac and passing rapidly through Washington and New York, stood upon British soil upon the 6th of February, that is to say, upon the 20th day after my departure from Secesio. Upon the 15th of May, I left Queenstown, and, passing through Halifax and Bermuda, found the vessel which carried me from Bermuda safely moored in Cape Fear River, upon which Wilmington stands, on the night of the 4th of June. That is again to say, upon the 20th day after my departure from England.
I've been going over this Millennium Project proposal. There's some great stuff in here. I do think you should tone down the Armageddon end of days rhetoric.
No need to worry, Michael. I have some good news. I'm the Messiah.
That's a good joke. That's great. You start with that and you keep them light.
But unquestionably, as regards to the endurance of fatigue and the facility for conveyancing luggage, the sea's route is infinitely preferable to land, and is attained with less personal jeopardy, although there is a certain mauvaise quart experienced at the moment of passing inside the blockading squadron, which in intensity of excitement can hardly be surpassed.
The unnamed writer was none other than the Honourable Francis C. Lawley, whom was one of the Times war correspondents and a relation to the four-time Prime Minister, William Gladstone. In the article, the trip from the Confederacy to British territory is considered to be a triviality, far more a vacation trip than a hazardous journey. He chronicled in great detail his return trip to Secessia, the less-used name for the Confederate States. Mr. Lawley intended to return in May 1864, and found himself needing to run the blockade again to return him to General Lee's headquarters.
Vice President Vance, emerging from 21 hours of talks, said Iran would not commit to giving up its nuclear program. Iran's foreign minister claims Iran engaged in good faith, but encountered maximalism, shifting goalposts, and blockade.
Leaving from Bermuda, he was faced with the choice of travelling on the Lilian or Flory. Both of these blockade runners had been made by Messrs. Thompson of Glasgow. Both ships were excellent sea vessels with very little in the way of armament, relying on speed to escape pursuit, and both were headed for Wilmington. Mr. Lawley chose the Lilian, probably for his choice of commander, John Newland Maffitt.
To many an English reader, the name of Captain Maffitt, lately in command of the Confederate cruiser Florida, is well known as having assisted Captain Semmes and the Alabama to demonstrate that two light and, as regards equipment, comparatively insignificant vessels of war would have little difficulty in driving from the ocean a flag which 3 years ago might have been seen upon every wave of every sea. It is remarked that this is a lesson to which, of all nations, England can least afford to be blind.
No, Michael, I'm serious. The chosen one. The king of kings. The Alpha and the Omega. You're looking at him.
President Trump says the U.S. blockade in the Strait will begin this morning.
We're putting on a complete blockade. We're not going to let Iran make money on selling oil.
The Iranians cannot afford to lose 2 million barrels a day of oil revenue. So the U.S. is going to give the Iranians a couple days to think about it. Do you really want to call the U.S.'s bluff and attack U.S. forces and restart this war?
Tensions are already high in the Strait. Iran says this video shows a standoff Saturday with a U.S. destroyer.
You must alter course and go back.
This is Coalition
warship 121. Engaged in transit passage. No challenges attended to you.
The impending blockade, in addition to pressuring Iran, could also put more pressure on the U.S. economy.
The president has repeatedly said we have already won this war, and while tactically this has been seemingly successful, Iran's effective closure of the Strait in response and what that has done to world oil prices has given them a huge bargaining chip and added growing pressure for the president to end the war.
Look, Owen, if this is some kind of joke, let me just say, good one. I get it. That's hot.
I'm as shocked as you are, believe me. I'm as shocked as you are, believe me. This is a big responsibility. I mean, look at this.
Things to do. Banish Satan and the forces of evil. Build a New Jerusalem. Buy milk.
Milk. I keep forgetting to pick up milk.
Owen, you can't be serious.
Look, Michael, I know I'm supposed to be able to do this all by myself, being the Son of God and all. I know I'm supposed to be able to do this all by myself, being the Son of God and all, but I'm feeling a lot of pressure, so I was thinking, maybe you could help me.
Well, you want me to help you, what, banish Satan and establish God's kingdom on earth?
If you're not too busy.
So, I hear you've been out of the game for a while. Are you sure you're still as sharp as Mike says?
How long have you been dating your secretary?
About a week.
Listen, I have kind of a pressing appointment, but I thought you might run into a roadblock, so I asked someone to drop by. Well,
Mike?
sir?
Randall? Donald.
Mr. Trump here wrote The Art of the Deal. Then he wrote a new bestseller, The Art of the Comeback.
2 books. Wow. Well, sit down. Well, that must have been tough coming up with that much material.
No.
Must have been hard getting started, though, right?
First day, 9 chapters.
9 chapters.
You should call your next book The Art of Not Helping.
You like this, don't you? Yes, you do. Yeah. All right. That's about all, kiddo. There you go. There you are. You just stay right there, Rags, all right?
Consumer prices have surged higher at their fastest monthly pace since 2022. The gas index rising by 21%, the highest monthly increase on record. President Trump acknowledges prices may be high through the fall.
We could be true American heroes. Don't you love your country?
You can't spell America without Erica.
Who wants to see some fireworks? Doesn't that just lift your spirits?
So do you believe the price of oil and gas will be lower before the midterm elections?
I hope so. I mean, I think so. It could be. It could be or the same or maybe a little bit higher, but it should be around the same.
As polls show most Americans opposing the war, President Trump overnight criticized perhaps the most prominent war critic, the Pope, saying Pope Leo is weak on crime and terrible for foreign policy, adding, "I don't want a Pope who criticizes the President of the United States because I'm doing exactly what I was elected in a landslide to do, setting record low numbers in crime and creating the greatest stock market in history."
Everything the light touches is our kingdom. But a king's time as ruler rises and falls like the sun. One day, the sun will set on my time here and will rise with you as the new king.
There is a trending retweet of yours. You retweeted somebody from Il Duce 2016. It was a Mussolini quote, but you didn't know it was Mussolini when you retweeted it. It said, "It is better to live one day as a lion than 100 years as a sheep." That's a famous Mussolini quote. You retweeted it. Do you like the quote? Did you know it was Mussolini?
It's okay to know it's Mussolini. Look, Mussolini was Mussolini. It's okay to. It's a very good quote. It's a very interesting quote, and I know it. I saw it. I saw what. And I know who said it. But what difference does it make whether it's Mussolini or somebody else? It's certainly a very interesting quote.
Well,
that's probably why I have
is a
between
known
Facebook
fascist.
and Twitter 14 million people,
Do you
and
want
other
to be
people don't.
You want to be
It's a very
associated?
interesting quote, and people can talk about it.
Do you want to be associated with a fascist?
No, I want to be associated with interesting quotes. And people, I have almost 14 million people between Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and all of that. Right. And we do.
Tonight, for the first time, I am releasing my official birth video. Now, I warn you, no one has seen this footage in 50 years. Not even me. But let's take a look. Oh well, back to square one. I want to make clear to the Fox News table, that was a joke. That was not my real birth video.
Trump claiming Leo was elected only because he's American, and the church thought that would be the best way to deal with President Donald J. Trump.
And as higher oil and gas prices trickle down to food and other goods, there's another potential economic development. President Trump is now threatening new tariffs on China after reports that China may have sent weapons to Iran.
John Newland Maffitt was the son of an immigrant Irish couple. Born at sea, it seemed that his life would be dominated by the waves. Serving 31 years in the US Navy, he rose from midshipman to the rank of commander before secession came. In 1861, he resigned his commission and became Robert E. Lee's naval aide. On August 17, 1862, he became the first commander of the CSS Florida, a Confederate cruiser which earned great infamy during the war. Built by William Miller and Sons in Liverpool, in the 3 years she was on the open seas, she took 37 prize ships. It was during this time as commander of the Florida that Maffitt became known as the Prince of the Privateers. On February 12, 1864, Maffitt was forced to relinquish the command of the Florida at Brest in France due to his ill health. However, by the June of that year, he was too trying to return to the Confederacy after a full recovery. Lawley described both ships as a credit to their builders and describes the journey as being largely uneventful. One incident of note happened about 200 miles from Wilmington. When the Lillian spied smoke on the horizon, Maffitt changed course to provide aid, commenting, "The ship that leaves a companion at sea in distress must be so cursed." The smoke turned out to be a Federal cruiser creating a mass of smoke from its boiler in pursuit of another delinquent blockade runner. With quick wits, Maffitt changed course, unnoticed by the preoccupied Federal ship. The Lillian then continued for 16 hours without incident until approaching the inner squadron blockading Wilmington, and another cruiser attempted to intercept the ship. Maffitt changed course and using the Lillian's impressive speed was able to outrun the ship. Then under cover of dark, she slipped back past the squadron and under the protection of Fort Fisher. But what can be gleaned from this perspective of the war? What does it say about the British attitude to what was happening in America? Mr. Lawley summarizes perfectly.
It is the opinion of every English officer who has been to the southern states that there is infinitely more to be learned here during a month than in the north during a year. It is pretty well admitted by this time that as regards the construction of guns or the architecture of ironclad monitors, England has nothing to learn from the north. But in every other department of the vast science of war there is more to be gained as regards the present struggle by studying it from a southern than a northern point of view.
A bold statement indeed. Lawley didn't admire the Union's war machine, but instead the Confederacy's inventiveness and their tenacity in the face of the overwhelming odds. If the press truly represents the opinions of its readership and is a vox populi, the voice of the people, then the American Civil War was truly a war of very British interest.
But perhaps with all your jetting around, you have not had chance to peruse today's headlines. I rather like the last one. It isn't even mine.
I never believe what I read in the press anyway.
Therein lies your problem, Mr. Bond. You see, we're both men of action, but your era and Miss Lynn's is passing. Words are the new weapons. Satellites, the new artillery.
And you become the new Supreme Allied Commander?
Exactly. Caesar had his legions, Napoleon had his armies. I have my divisions. TV, news, magazines. And by midnight tonight, I'll have reached and influenced more people than anyone in the history of this planet, save God himself. And the best he ever managed was a Sermon on the Mount.
You really are quite insane.
The distance between insanity and genius is measured only by success.
We're in position between the fleets.
Fire one missile at the flagship of each fleet. The Chinese will think the British are rattling the saber. The British will think the Chinese are being belligerent. And the media will provide cool, objective coverage. Let the mayhem begin. What you're about to witness, Miss Lynn, is not so much a missile attack, but the launch of a new world order. In precisely 5 minutes after your countrymen have attacked the British fleet, I shall retaliate for dear old England by sending this missile into Beijing. But General Chang has just called an emergency meeting of the Chinese High Command. Unfortunately, General Chang will be delayed in traffic, arriving just after the missile has killed your leaders, and too late to stop the Air Force from sinking the entire British fleet. But he will be just in time to take over the government. negotiate a truce, and emerge as a world leader with a Nobel Peace Prize.
And what do you get?
Me? Oh, nothing. Just exclusive broadcasting rights in China for the next 100 years. How romantic. Don't you realize how absurd your position is?
No more absurd than starting a war for ratings.
Great men have always manipulated the media to save the world. Look at William Randolph Hearst, who told his photographers, "You provide the pictures, I'll provide the war." I've just taken it one step further.
Sorry about that. I tuned out there for a moment, Elliot.